Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience studying in China. So if you're interested in this topic, please keep watching. If you watched my first video about my experience of studying in 4 different countries, I've already started talking about my story, how I got there, etc. So if you watch that video, maybe you can skip to the part when I start talking about the classes, etc. because I will start with the story how I got there, how I got my scholarship and stuff like that. Yeah, so I've heard the news that actually China is open now for students, and I thought that it would be a current topic to talk about my experience studying in China. I know that there are plenty of people studying and learning Chinese, and I think that maybe my experience can be helpful and you can decide whether you want to go there or you don't want. Well, I come from Russia. I don't live in Russia anymore. I moved to Europe. In Russia, I was studying in the university for 2 years. So after the first course, they offered us this opportunity to go to study to China for free. And as soon as my mom found out that we didn't have to pay for studies, for accommodation, etc., she was like, okay, you go. You of course you go. And I wasn't prepared. I didn't have this dream of studying Chinese and to study in China. Well, I understood that, Chinese is a popular language and it would be cool to know this language, but it was never my dream. And when I understood that, oh my god, I'm going to China, it was such a shock for me because I hadn't traveled during that time before I went to China. Coming to China was such a cultural shock for me. So basically there were 10 people from my university and 10 people from another university in my Russian city who got the places to go to China to study for free, who got the scholarship. Basically you had to have good marks for your exam sessions at the university and you could get the place, so nothing special. So I got the place because, well, I studied well, I can say, and we were preparing to go to China. So the first step was documents, of course. That was the time when we faced the first cultural difference between Russian people and Chinese people. Chinese people are super slow, and everything related to document and this kind of work, they were doing it super slowly, so that instead of going to China in September, we went to China in the middle of November. So can you imagine that we lost 2.5 months only because workers from the Chinese university wouldn't send us all the necessary documents. But yeah, it was maybe a drawback, but it didn't influence the experience I've had studying in China, so it was fine. Yeah, we just accepted it. As soon as I found out that I was going to China, I was like, oh my god, I have to prepare, I have to watch as many videos as possible. I have to start learning Chinese and stuff, and I was so excited and stressed at the same time. But when I came to China, everything I watched, everything I learned, it was like, it vanished away because I was so overwhelmed with everything around me. So that I was like, oh my god, what video did I watch? I don't remember anything. So everything seems new, everything seems like cultural shock, 100% cultural shock if you've never been to Asia, and the first thing you do is you move to Asia, to Asian country for 7 months. It's crazy. Yeah, so the first semester there were only people from my Russian city in my group because, well, they had to change the program for us so that we get the same amount of knowledge but for a shorter time. So you can imagine that instead of studying for 4 months in the first semester, we only studied 2.5. So you can imagine what amount of data, what amount of knowledge we got every day. So we could learn a long list of new words every day, and it was so intense. But the fact that the classes were so interactive and the professor was so good, it didn't feel like much pressure. Well, it was intensive, so you could feel that it was intensive, but if you studied at the university well, it was fine. Yeah, it was just more than usual, but it was okay. And the right decision I made was to take a gap year at my Russian university because my other group mates didn't do that. I wasn't struggling with problems in my Russian university, so I could only struggle with problems in Chinese university. Nice. The first semester, it was very intense, very fast. The studies were mainly in English. We were practicing Chinese a lot. It was really great. After the first semester, I came back to Russia for 1 month and then came back to China for the second semester, and that the time when all of us were shocked because at the first class, the new professor entered the classroom and she was like, speaking Chinese, no English at all. Some people tried to approach her in English, but she was like, no, I'm not speaking English. And she was saying it. Even this phrase, she was saying it in Chinese. So we were so like surprised, overwhelmed, stressed, like, oh my god, I don't understand anything. And after the first day, we came to her and we were like saying that it's difficult for us to understand. And she was like, oh, if it's difficult, then you can go back to the course you took last semester. We're like, no way. So for me, it was like, I think it was personal, that no way I'm coming back to that, to the last semester. Like, what was the point of me staying in China if I just learn the same information for 2 semesters in a row? Like, no. I think that on the first day it was just shock and they couldn't understand anything because I was just shocked that everyone was speaking Chinese to me. On the second day it was already better, and after a week and after a month it was completely fine for me. And the thing is that even if during lectures you understand what your professor is saying, problem can be that as soon as you go outside and you try to communicate with people on the street, they just don't understand you or you don't understand them. Because at the classes, you know what the professor will be talking about because you have a topic and most probably she will ask questions about this topic, so you know what to expect. But when you're outside, when you're on the street, you don't know what to expect from others, and if your pronunciation is not good, no one will understand you because first of all, local people do not expect that you are going to speak Chinese. So the first time you are asking them something, do not expect them to answer because they will be shocked, and you have to repeat the phrase once again. And here, if your pronunciation is not good, your question can mean anything except what you're saying. So it's really hard. With everyday practice, we had like 2-3 lectures of Chinese every day, and we had like 3 kind of lectures: listening, speaking, and general course of Chinese. And it was so intense. And after lectures, you go to dorms and you revise everything. You practice writing characters and stuff. So for me, 2 most difficult part in learning Chinese, it was pronunciation and listening. I think those are the most difficult parts for me in any language. Even when I started to learn English, it was also difficult for me, like, to pronounce the words correctly or to understand what somebody is saying in this language. I was struggling a lot, but after practice it gets better. So you just have to understand where you have to work harder, like at what aspect of language you have to work harder. So this whole experience was so amazing. The classes were outstanding. They were so good especially after having studied in Russia. Those were just next level because everyone was so friendly. It was also an opportunity to take additional classes, so we took a class of Chinese medicine. It was really fun. Chinese students, they were trying to show us something, to teach us something, so it was really great because it was a way for us to get closer to Chinese culture, obviously. So it was really a really great experience. After having studied in China for 2 semesters, I was able to pass HSK 4. HSK, it's a language test, like a Chinese language test which you take if you study Chinese, basically. And there are 6 levels of HSK from 1 to 6. It wasn't difficult for me to pass the 4th one. I think if I had studied harder, I would have passed like the 5th if I wanted to. But the thing is that by the end of the second term, professors told us that we could have this exam, and actually it was more expensive in China than in Russia. And I was like, oh no, I will pass it in Russia. And then I came back to Russia. I didn't practice Chinese at all, and I only passed the exam half of a year later. And I was really frightened that I could have forgotten everything I learned, basically, because, well, I didn't practice Chinese after I came to Russia, and I didn't actually prepare it well for the exam. I only downloaded a textbook of preparation for the 4th HSK, and I think I did 2 samples of the exam, because the most difficult thing about language exam is that you have to know the format, you have to know the structure of the exam, because it doesn't matter how good your knowledge is, if you don't know how the exam is built, you would not pass it well. That's the thing. So I just tried to understand how it works. And that's it. Well, I didn't do anything else, but fortunately I passed it. But I do not recommend you not to prepare for the exam, because that's, well, it cannot work well all the time, so you just have to prepare for that if you want to have a good result. Yeah, I was really frightened that I wouldn't have got enough credits to pass the exam, but I have got, so it was fine for me. And my certificate was valid for 2 years. So now it's not valid, of course, because I don't practice Chinese, but I've had the courses and classes of Chinese in my Latvian university here, and I was like trying to come back to that knowledge I've got, but well, I didn't, because I just don't have this motivation or a goal. Because, for example, if I find a job which requires the knowledge of Chinese, of course I will work hard to revise everything, but for now I just don't have such a goal. So my level of Chinese is like super basic now, I guess. But the experience was great, and I really recommend you to go to China to study Chinese, because your experience, your cultural experience, it will be just amazing. You will meet so many international people from Europe, even Asian countries, and it will be just amazing. So for me, it was really great. The professors were great, and the courses were great, and I really got good knowledge from those courses. So for me, I really recommend it. I don't know how it works nowadays, because basically COVID, you know, it could change a lot in China. I was there before COVID, so basically I may have different experience. But the thing is that to go to China, you may easily get the scholarship, and you don't have to pay for anything, for like accommodation and studies, the way it was for me. You can get even extra money, for example, for food and stuff, for everyday activities, and it's actually very easy. And I don't know many people who actually pay for their studies in China. Most of them have the scholarship. So if you want to go to China, find out more about scholarship, and let me know in the comments below if you are going to China, which city you are going. By the way, I was in Beijing. Yeah, I did mention that. So yep, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you are free to ask in the comments below. And if you want a more detailed video about the classes, how they went, because I have many videos from the classes, from our practices, so how I got this HSK4. If you're interested, let me know in the comments below. I will film it, no problems. See you in the next video. Bye bye.